Hello, everyone. I would like to officially welcome you to the new feature focus event, Increasing Your Productivity with the Brain 9. My name is Shelley Haydock, and I'm co-hosting today's event with Matt Caton, our Director of Customer Solutions.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We're really excited to share many of the new Brain 9 features with you today.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead, and I'm gonna start with a basic overview of some of the more obvious features, and then Matt is going to dive pretty deeply into everything Brain 9. And we're happy to entertain any question. It could be a brain creation question. So if it's not specifically about Brain 9, it might just be, how do I use the software? That's also fine. Anything goes as far as questions. And that, I just want to point out, we have the questions panel that while I'm presenting, Matt will be monitoring. And when Matt's presenting, I'll be monitoring. And we always reserve a good 15 to 10 minutes to highlight what's in the Q&A. So feel free to share your thoughts with us throughout the session, and of course at the end of the session. And with that, I'm just going to hide my webcam so it's not distracting, and present to you the Brain 9. The Brain 9 has actually been rewritten from ground up. It is pretty much our biggest release ever. From back end to front end, there are a lot of changes. And some of you who are using the software, existing users, you've been playing around with it, giving us lots of feedback, even working through beta testing. Thanks for that. And other users are just getting started. I would be remiss if I didn't actually talk about what you can't see, which is our brand new powerful back-end database that is going to enable faster thought creation, even more scalability, as well as collaboration. So that the whole product from ground up has been a very powerful rewrite, and something that rewrite doesn't include is Java. And that is actually to our little shout out to our Mac users, because oftentimes there were some issues with getting a Java install. So it is non-Java based, brand new database. So those are some things I can't show you, but are very important to our user community. So I wanted to mention that. And now we're going to go get started. So just to give you an overview, I am in the Brain 9, and you'll notice the top of the Brain is looking a little bit different. We've got this new funky tab interface. So multiple brain management in the Brain 9 is much more streamlined. You can actually have multiple brains open. So I have my brain, and you'll notice, for those of you that have used the software, we have a new default where notes are appearing on the side, and there's some very good reasons for that. We'll get into that, but I'll just say for now, notes are on the side. And then what you can actually do is you can change your display. So I'm going to tab to my legendary entrepreneurs brain, and you can see that I actually have this in outline mode, and I still have my notes below, and that's very easy to change. We have a little arrow button here, so if I wanted it to the side, I also have my search and my tag report showing, and that can be toggled on and off. And this is more or less what the default looks like, although this would be without the wallpaper. But again, that's something that you can easily change and adjust. And I'll just make my brain full screen so you can see the slider or the arrows this way, just by flipping these arrows. And of course, we still have the ability to move things up and down. The other thing that's new in terms of just your setup, and I'm starting with setup because people don't realize how much your productivity is influenced by the way things are set up. So there's a lot of customization with the new interface options in the Brain 9 that I want to make sure everyone's aware of. And of course, your thoughts, you can adjust the size of that. For those of you that have a bigger brain, you may want to make those thoughts a little bit smaller. And that's actually pretty cool too, because you can still have your brain if you are working, and you have stuff open on your desktop, but you just want like a little tiny brain, and maybe you actually want to see some articles and sources that are appearing. And we have our new content viewer, which I'll talk about in a bit here. You can have just a tiny brain going and have other things in the background. So I'm showing my brain full screen, but the brain can sort of be as present or as unintrusive as you like. So I just want to continue. I'll keep my brain this side because what I want to do is I want to show you a couple other brains that I'm tabbing through that I'm using with my multiple brains. I've got my writer's brain here. Again, separate wallpaper. This brain, I've got my notes below. My mid-century restoration brain, which again, I've got customized links, and I've got my notes and my content window appearing as in the default to the left. So one of the new features of the Brain 9 is the integrated browser right in the software. So you can see that I actually have this live web page in the desktop. So I can actually go ahead and click on this very cool modern bungalow exterior and then start looking at maybe cabin style homes. Maybe that's something that Matt's interested in or whatever, and move along where I'm still on, the thought that I started with. I can, of course, click on this thought or click on that to move back to that particular thought, or even launch that content in a separate window. But the nice thing is that we have this browser in the software, and that'll also work for document previews on the Mac and as well as notes and show PDFs. And I'll show you that in a secondary brain. But you can see some of the nice differences. And then if I want to move to my other brain, Science Heroes, again, I can certainly take advantage of that integrated browser just by clicking on a thought. Rather than having to click to open a web page, I can actually view this web page right in the Brain 9 content area as well. So that's pretty cool. Now, the other thing you can do with the tabs, of course, is you can pop out multiple brains to look at brains at once. You can see, and again, I just want to point out, I'm going to use this wonderful new slider to adjust my thoughts. In this brain, I actually have the plus on. I have a little, my distant thoughts showing. So you can set preferences per brain. They're not going to affect your overall brain. So I've got my Science Heroes brain here, and I'm just going to drag out mid-century and drop that. And you can see I've got this brain opened here. So I can actually have multiple brains. And, when you do the multiple brain management, this is where you might need to adjust your content, or you can even go full plex if you want to do that and get rid of the content area. I'll just keep it this way so you can see some of our new content viewing office. And I want to drag a writer's brain out as well. So now you can see, and I know this was a huge feature. Just have to grab things with the web meeting. It's a little harder. That I've got multiple brains appearing out in the area, and I can look at all these brains at once. And if I wanted to put them back in the brain, that's very easy as well. I simply drag on the tab and drop back on that tab bar, and mid-century is coming back. Likewise for writer's brain, and you can see that I've got them back integrated. So you can play with these options to really get the area of brain visualization and display that works for you. And I also wanted to click on a new tab to show you what happens when you do that. If you have existing brains that you're already working with, those will appear here. So of course I can click on any one of these brains and launch these brains as well. Or of course I can close this tab if I don't need it. If I want to go ahead and start a new brain, I simply click on this plus brain, and I'll just call this my new Brain 9 brain, and I can hit OK. And when you first start the software, they'll give you options to actually look at tutorials and so forth. So when you first start the software, you will be able to go into custom settings, and we have these brain themes, and Matt's going to talk a little bit more about this, that are built in, and they're actually going to kind of randomly give you a theme. Now you can, if you want to go back to our light blue default, which we've had for version 8, you can do that, or our classic dark blue, which we've had, gosh, for a long time, which I guess I'm a little partial to, you can do that. And then we also have some really cool new options like painted sky, purple, and dark gray, and so forth. And you can play with these different themes as well. So that's just a little bit of a new feature, the way those themes pop up. So feel free to go ahead and play with those. Now, I want to go ahead and get started and talk a little bit about some of the features that will directly impact your productivity. So for those of you that are new to the webinar event, I will just give you a basic overview of the brain as well. So we're not just totally in Brain 9 world, although we will be for the most of this webinar. Pieces of the brain are what we call a thought, and a thought can represent any type of digital information. Clicking on any thought triggers all related pieces of information. So the brain's going to shift focus just as I do. So I've just clicked on my active projects thought, and you can see everything to those projects. One of the advantages of the brain is that I can have one piece of information effectively categorized under multiple categories and associatively linked to things. So I don't have to decide, do I want my active projects in my folder of the month, my folder about clients, my folder under work? I can kind of make any kind of connections I want. So in this case, active projects goes under horizons of focus, and it's also under my business. I also have jump thoughts to things that are relevant. So natural planning model, how I plan, and this is related to David Allen, and actually I will have it connected. I'll connect that up to my GTD, getting things done. And that's also relevant today because we are not just talking about the Brain 9, we're talking about productivity. So you can use the brain to go ahead and manage all of your productivity. You can collect, process, organize your commitments, you can review your commitments, and you can even map out your horizons of focus. And as I'm talking about this, I'm going to also keep going on the Brain 9 features overview, and you'll notice the smoothness of the animation, and that is also a new feature in the Brain 9. So let's go ahead and go into my active projects, and I'm going to click Writing Projects. You'll notice there's a new notes area as well, and when I click on the notes, I can actually come in and adjust this. I'm going to have Matt dive a little bit more deeper into our new note styles, which are pretty cool. But I want to bring up notes because, of course, in terms of productivity, if anything, I find that sometimes our notes features are overlooked just because of the power of the visual interface. But we are actually a very robust and advanced visual note-taking software. I mean, a lot of people, if you wanted to, you could just use the brain for notes. So that's actually there's so many things you can do with the notes, from checklists to embedding videos, to creating styles and so forth, that, don't forget about taking the notes. That's just a great way to capture ideas, and integrating existing information and adding information is just as powerful and revamped in the Brain 9 as well. So a couple things here. We're going to talk about our new content window. So we have notes. I can also click on this to add any attachment. So I can create a new file. If I want to create a Microsoft Access database right off this thought, I can do that. Or a Word document or a text document. I can also link to a file. I can open a folder. I can enter a URL. Any kind of content can be attached to a thought. And we'll do that in just a bit. But I also want to show you what it looks like when you've got content attached. So you'll actually, I'm on a PC. If you are on a Mac, this document would automatically auto preview. We do take advantage of that in the Mac, but I can of course click to open these. And if you are adding PDF documents are particularly cool because you'll actually get to see the PDF right in the software as well. So, and this is where, sometimes, especially if you're on a larger monitor, that default that we changed was specifically designed so you could have sort of your thoughts over here and have a nice view. Now I'm looking at this PDF, and that works quite nicely. And of course, the same thing for web pages. Now, of course, you can launch the content in its own application, but this is just a nice way, especially if you're sharing a brain and you've got some web content attached. As soon as you click on these web pages, and I'll just go through them, and now marketing resources, the Power of America Media Association, that page will load. There might be a slight delay here with our web broadcast, but it's really quite nice to just click through and create web guides with your view of the connections and your relationships, and then of course the content appearing right here in the content window. And again, that is a new feature for the Brain 9. So I'm going to go back up to my marketing projects here, and I actually want to go to my active writing projects and add a little bit more information. So I'm going to go ahead and just adjust the Brain, functions as a new window, and I want to drag and drop a couple things. First of all, I've got some guides to business writing. That was that PDF that you saw here that automatically appears. I also have another handbook for business writing that's sort of related to this as well. So I'm simply going to drag and drop this under business writing, and that creates a new thought. Now, if I click on that thought here, what you'll see is I do get that automatic preview of the business writing PDF. So that's looking really good. I can, of course, go ahead and adjust this thought name, and the new thought properties box is, well, as I say, it's new. It's redesigned. It's bigger. It's more ergonomic. You can just click away to do things. So if I want to call this advanced writing handbook book reference, I can do that. I'll just call it advanced writing handbook. I can also go right in here and click on this, and I can select a stock icon. I can choose a file. I can capture an image. So in this case, I'll just go ahead and choose an icon, and I'll actually use a little briefcase there. So I don't have to necessarily show, if the default, if you have an attachment, will be to show that PDF. But in this case, I'll go ahead and do this. The other thing that you can do is, of course, type and tag your information. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and give this a thought type. And this is just another level of information. And I'm going to go ahead and call this a good resource. So now I've got my that thought typed, and I'll go ahead and I can go ahead and look at all my types or tags as well. And these are new menu options right here at the top, so it's very convenient to get to. So if I want to see, for instance, all my competitors in this Brain, I've got types for that. I can easily move to that area. Or if I want to go ahead and look at tags, everything that I'm doing in a 6-month time period, I've got that tag option right over here. Now, in terms of other display, let me just go ahead here and make the Brain a little bigger so we can see what's going on. I can actually add my search and report area here. So if I want to look by tags and types, I can go ahead and set the thoughts to view, and I actually or by attachments, for instance. So if I want to look at everything that is a PDF, like our sales to date, or everything that is a Word document or something, I can go ahead and adjust this and, of course, move to this area. I like going to tags and types. So I've got a ton of content tags and types in this Brain. But if I want to go ahead and maybe just look at a particular tag or type, I can simply do that by clicking on a thought in this Brain, and then it'll move, or this section move to this area. And then this other slider here, which will go into more detail, is our new timeline view. And actually, I'm just going to close this one by toggling and go back to timeline view. So let's go back to my writing projects here, and you can see I've got in timeline view an event set up where I've got a guide to business writing, and I've associated that with a particular thought. So this is our new sort of updated calendar where I can actually go in, and if I want to go ahead and in my web design meeting, set a new date for this web design meeting, I can go ahead, and maybe that's happening on the 8th of November. So I just clicked on the 8th, and you can see how this moves, and I can go ahead and add actions and set actions. I can go ahead and do all kinds of things in this area, and Matt's going to dive a little bit more into that, but it is relevant for getting things done. So that's a little bit of an overview of some of my favorite productivity features. Real quick, though, I also just want to cover in addition to dragging and dropping documents, let me go ahead and drag and drop an Excel spreadsheet so you can see. So I'm just going to go ahead and use our search area and go into sales. And now the search is at the top of the brain now. And of course, it's going to show me both content and thoughts now, which is very nice, very easy. And I'm going to go ahead and add my sales Excel in there. So if I want to go ahead and put this under sales figures, this is related to my new sales commission strategy. I can simply drag and drop that into the brain. And the new default will be to move this, to keep this file move the file into the brain natively. It's still here if I want to delete it. And from there, I can actually go ahead and take a note, add a note about this new commission structure will increase sales. And of course, I can still interrelate. If I want to relate this back to Fred, start typing a couple letters. I'm going to double click on Fred. And because he is our major account manager, I can go ahead and click on Fred as well. And that's sort of the basics of the Brain 9 in terms of my favorite productivity features, but we've just scratched the surface, and we're kind of getting close to the midway mark. So I think with that, Matt, unless anyone has any questions on what I've presented, I'm going to pass presenter over to you.
Great, thank you very much. Well, we've got lots of questions coming in. I tried to get to all of those, and it left me with a few additional features to demo today. Everything that we've done in the Brain 9, we've really focused on speed, reliability of the database. So everything about Brain 9 lends itself to today's topic of being more productive, even from tiny, minute details in the application. So I've jumped into Brain that I'm going to be demoing today. This is a business environment. So I've got a lot of different projects going on with different companies and presentations and checklists and meeting notes and deadlines. So it's all happening here in my Brain. And I really want to share with you some key features of the Brain 9 application, some enhancements, both subtle and not so subtle enhancements to the application that will really help with your productivity. So the first thing that I want to share with you is that each individual thought in the Brain, when you either click on that thought, or if the thought isn't the current active thought, I can also alt-click on a thought, and I bring up the thought properties display. So every thought in your Brain has its own thought property display, and it's a streamlined way of subtly adding a color code to that thought. Maybe you want to add an icon to that thought for that visual identification, or assign thought types and tags. And one of the great things about the thought property display, in addition to the new icons, you'll notice an entirely new icon set that has been more modernized and updated. But also, going to just keep going into this thought property display, each individual thought is now keeping track of its history. So this is great for the individual user, so I can keep track of when did I make those changes, when did I modify that content, but also if you choose to upgrade your Brain to Team Brain, this really allows you to find out who made those changes, when they made those changes, and how many changes did they make. So I'm just simply going to click on the history button for this one individual thought, and notice that I'm going back through time, all the way back to this past summer when this Brain was brought into version 9, all the different changes, and notice I'm the only one that has access. So they're all changed by me. If this were a Team Brain, we'd see who actually removed the link label and when specifically that took place. So just a really great enhancement. The Brain is keeping track of every change that you do within the application. This is really particularly nice in the realm of productivity for, if I have a client and I'm trying to keep track of how many hours I put into this this particular client? When did I edit those notes? Every time I go into those notes, it simply is going to log that change. So I can go back and review this content to find out when all those actions took place. You'll also notice on the individual thoughts where I have thought tags assigned. Now, we had a lot of questions come in about thought types and tags. I'm going to be getting to that in more detail in just a bit. But notice by default, my thought tags are actually hidden. It's a nice, cleaner, streamlined way of displaying the Plex. I can see that Time Warner has 2 tags. I can see there's a note associated with Time Warner. So even if I had my notes minimized over here on the right, I know that this particular thought has a note and it has 2 tags associated with it. What are they? I'm just going to mouse over and I see this is one of my favorite clients. And this particular client is actually headquartered in Los Angeles. So different tags for different thoughts. I've got a team site down below. This is a database. I know that because I'm visualizing the little database icon there. This is a backup database. It's in New York, and it requires security level 1, sort of a setting within my organization of different security levels. So greater context, greater information that the brain is giving me rather than just having a folder with a bunch of files and notes and ideas dropped into that folder. The visualization of those categories, those thought types and tags, gives me additional information for quicker access and understanding of my information and thus better productivity. So that's a quick outline of just some nice visual things that you'll notice about the Brain 9 that can be applied. Now, these can be very easily edited and modified as well. Many of the settings can be modified in the Brain 9 to best fit your environment, so it's most productive for you. Maybe you want your tags being displayed on the screen all the time. Maybe you don't want to see them. You only want to get to a tag by actually clicking on your tag list. Notice mine is quite extensive. And I'm saying, all right, I want to see all thoughts that are under review. So I go to my review tag. There they all are. I can find exactly what it is I'm looking for. The studio page is under review. That's part of the ad campaign for Time Warner, and I'm back to the Time Warner thought. So maybe you don't want the tags appearing there. Maybe you want them actually the full name. I can go up to my options and into preferences. This is another area that I'll be visiting a few times today. But on the very first tab, the look and feel tab, I see that I've got the settings of the tag text only shows up when I hover over the thought. I can choose not to show it or always show it. My tag icons, always show them, don't show them, only when I hover, etc. So you can really customize those settings to best fit your environment. While I'm here, I want to share another feature with you, and then these are the keyboard shortcuts. Now, we had keyboard shortcuts in version 8. They've been greatly enhanced for version 9, as well as the interface with how you set up keyboard shortcuts. So I've got a long list. These are all the different actions that I can do within the application without ever touching the mouse. We've got a lot of Brain users out there that never touch the mouse. Everything happens on the keyboard. And you can navigate. I'll just quickly close this actually and show you now. I'm no longer clicking on the mouse. I'm going to click on my keyboard and notice I get a little highlight. I can go to a particular thought and hit enter, or I can go to a thought and hit Control Enter to open up its thought properties. So a lot of different keyboard functionalities that you can do within the application, all of which can be customized. Let me show you exactly how that works. I'm just going to go into my preferences one more time. Mac user would go to TheBrain and then preferences. And let's use some of these great new features. Instead of scrolling through the whole list, I'm going to find how you can quickly delete a thought. So I just start typing in delete. So I can delete a report, an attachment, a selection. There it is, delete a thought. Now, the first thing that comes to mind for me for deleting a thought is Control Z. If I click Control Z, the brain telling me that that keystroke is already mapped out for edit, undo a change. So let's try Control Shift Z. That works. That's my new keyboard shortcut for deleting a thought. So if under Time Warner, I have a new thought, and notice that even creating a new thought is more streamlined. There's no checkbox or X to escape. That's all done with the keyboard. I just type in my new thought name, so new presentation, and hit enter. So there's my new thought, new presentation. Now I'm deciding I really don't need this thought. Time to delete. I'm going to use my keyboard shortcut, Control Shift Z, and new shortcut was deleted. So some great new ways to really get away from the mouse and use keyboard for all of your interactions within the Brain application. Now, the next thing I want to bring back is the notes. And forgive me, we had a lot of questions coming in. Shelley may have covered some of these, but I really want to highlight some of the great new features within the notes. We've taken a lot of time to streamline the notes so they have a nice, uniform layout throughout the Brain that you create. So notice right away that I just have my note for Time Warner. When I click in the notes area, then my actual note icons appear, all the different features that I can use. So obviously you can make things bold, italic, etc. I want to show you some of the specialized features that I really like. Let's say Acme Corporation. This is just a sample note. I'll put that on a new line. Notice I just need to put my cursor somewhere on an individual line, and I can then select the paragraph style for that entire paragraph. So Acme Corporation, we're going to make that the title, and it really quickly just changes the layout of the entire line. I don't need to drag and select or highlight. Also, I've got the option of, and I'm going to just add a couple of different spaces here. I've got the option of bringing different types of content into the notes, which is really, really exciting. Many times in some other Brains that I have, in the notes, I want an image to appear in the notes. So click on the button that looks like this if I'm creating a note that's instructional, or maybe I just want a video to appear in the notes. I actually have a video open on my other monitor. Let me just drag that over. And this staying on topic today is all about getting things done. So there's the GTD guy himself. Let me close that. So there is David Allen. And let's say I'm just talking in my notes about some ideas of using GTD for the projects that I'm working on with this particular client. And I want to reference this particular video. I'm actually going to drag the video itself right from YouTube. You can do this from Vimeo as well. Just going to drag this right into the notes, and notice that it puts the video right there in my note. So I don't need to add it as a separate attachment. I can drag it and drop it up here into the attachment area as a separate attachment, drag it as I always have been able to right here into the Plex, so it creates its own thought and loads up in the content window. In this case, it's part of the note. I'm reviewing the sort of the history of this particular client, as well as the projects that I perceive moving forward of getting things done. And I'll just add a little label or a little note. Here is a great tour on GTD. So just a nice little note. And once again, I can click and select a different type of formatting for that particular line. So drag and drop images, copy images from the web, and drop them right into the notes as you're creating them. And the Brain really does a great job at formatting that and keeping it consistent throughout the Brain. There are also many different styles that you can apply to your notes as well. So we've got this little nice little note style guy button. So I can click and really quickly change over to the Del Rey style, a little more bold. Click one more time and go into the classic style. So there I've got sort of classic typewriter style there in my notes. So many, many different options for you, and you can set those different styles as your default style through the entire Brain. If I click on options and go into Brain theme, I'll be here once again a little bit later in the demo today as well, but over on options is where I can specify my note style or even customize my own note style. So find my own font, set my own color background, all once again customizable to best fit your environment. Now, the next tip that I want to share with you is Shelley showed us some great examples of dragging and dropping web pages. So obviously, we've got that nice built-in browser. This particular thought already has a web page attached, and so notice once again it loads up right there in the content window. So I never need to leave the Brain. I can just simply open that content and review it right in the Brain's built-in browser. And you can do the same with documents as well. Let's see, under the Reach Out ad campaign, I am actually going to drag and drop a document off of my desktop. Here's my website budget. So I'm going to drag and drop this into the Brain, and a few items to highlight with you when dragging and dropping into the Brain. Obviously, that's one of the easiest ways to get content into your Brain is by drag and drop. And if you, once again, go into Options and Preferences, on the UI tab is where you can specify how the Brain treats a drag and dropped file or drag and dropped item. Now, a web URL, you drag and drop, it's always going to create the link. It's not going to import that web page internally into your Brain. You get the URL added as a link. But Excel spreadsheets, Word documents, PowerPoints, if I click on the UI tab on drag and drop, the default is to copy the file into the Brain, but you can also link that file into the Brain. If you're working on a network, you've got access to a shared drive, and you simply want to create links back to that default document that other people may edit from other locations, then a link may work best for you. Set that up as your default, or you can select to move files automatically into the Brain. Everything internal inside your Brain, just as before with previous versions of the Brain. When you move a document internally into your Brain, it's not zipped up or compressed or renamed in any way. It's stored internally in an internal database, basically a files directory where all of your internal attachments will reside. And there is my internal attachment of website budget. Now, once again, we can still right-click to move files into the Brain, move files out of the Brain, so you can always go back and modify. If you accidentally drag and dropped and created a shortcut, no problem. You can move the file in, move the file out if it's internal and you want to make it just a link. But here's that preview button. So rather than auto previewing, you can auto preview on a Mac, on a PC. I'll just simply click on the preview button. And there's my Excel spreadsheet right there in the content window as well. So there's some more feature enhancements with that preview button on the way with the Brain 9. But again, just a great way of not having to leave the application. If you're in a presentation and you want to show just a quick outline of your, in this case, the website budget or whatever the document is, don't even leave the Brain. Just simply open in the preview. Now, you cannot edit in the preview. For that, I would need to launch the attachment in its native application, which obviously the Brain can do as well, and make those edits and then save those internally into the Brain. And the next feature that I wanted to share with you is a little bit more about thought types and thought tags. Now, we saw earlier that thought types and tags can be accessed first by while you're creating the thought, so or editing a thought rather. So I click once again to open up the thought properties display. And right there is my drop down for thought types, so I can assign a new thought type to this particular thought or assign additional tags. I've got quite an extensive tag list. But I also wanted to share with you the tag icons. Great new feature that exists in version 9. And it's really nice for that quick visual on a category that a thought fits into. This particular thought, once again, it's one of my favorites, and they're located in Los Angeles. I kind of need to know that this is one of my favorite clients just by seeing it there in my Brain. Is Disney one of my favorites? I don't know. I'll need to mouse over. No, that's not urgent. There's Arcadia. So those are not some of my favorite clients. Which ones are? I want to identify that with a thought icon. So I'm going to really quickly jump over to my favorites thought tag. So I only have one favorite right now. It's Time Warner. I'll assign some more so you can see how this works. But clicking on favorite to open up its thought properties display has the same effect on an individual thought. I can change the colors. I can actually give it a tag abbreviation. Sometimes we create a tag and the name is just way too long to display in the Plex and it overwrites other thoughts. So we can actually set up tag abbreviation. So if I only wanted to see a little star appear for my favorites, it's still a favorite, but it'll just appear with the little star for the tag when I hover over it. In this case, I simply want to add a visual icon. So I click on the plus sign to select a stock icon. I'm in sports. This works out great. I'll just use this trophy. So now you can see for Time Warner, I don't need to hover. I can just look at Time Warner. I see the note icon, so I know they've got a note with that particular thought, and the nice little trophy appearing there, letting me know that is one of my favorites. And maybe for Los Angeles, I'll apply a tag for Los Angeles as well, in Los Angeles. I'm not sure what the icon for Los Angeles is, but we'll be able to pick something. Select stock icon, and let's say for Los Angeles, I just have a nice little orange flower. That looks great. So you can see these are all of my Los Angeles items: a person that works in Los Angeles, a document, another person, and one of my clients. So those nice little icons appearing as my tags, a very simple feature with a really powerful effect. And if I apply other thoughts, I'm going to actually alt-click on Disney and say that Disney is actually one of my favorite clients. And we'll also say that Arcadia is one of my favorite clients as well. Just starting to work with this company, but they're already becoming one of my favorites to work with. So now you can see I'll just jump right back over to Time Warner. I get that nice visual. Wherever that trophy is showing up, I know that is one of my favorite clients. So the thought icons and tags, a small, tiny little upgrade with a really powerful impact. The next feature that I want to share with you, and we had a lot of questions about this coming in, is the timeline. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about some of the fantastic new features and even some that are on the way with the timeline. So first off, to get to your Brain calendar or the Brain timeline, there's a few different ways that you can get there. First off, I like to click on the icon. Now, if you're not seeing this icon appear next to the search box, it may simply be that your Brain has been minimized. So notice when I minimize, I sort of have my Brain constrained to this little corner of the screen. It minimizes that icon. So just know that the icons are there if you make the Brain window a little bit larger. You can also get there by clicking on clicking on View and opening up your timeline. So the timeline appears at the bottom of the screen. We've got the nice calendar for just a quick view of what the current date is over on the right. And I have this really nice scrolling timeline. I'll share a few different features with you here, but I encourage you to use the timeline and start setting up events and reminders within your Brain. Notice if I use my mouse wheel, so now I've got my timeline open. I've got a couple of existing events in this Brain. If I use my mouse wheel, I'm actually shrinking the timeline down, so I'm viewing the entire month of October, or I can zoom into today and look at hour by hour. In fact, I can zoom in really, really closely, and I'm viewing actually here when I move my mouse, I'm viewing this in 5-minute increments. But also, I'm going to add a new event. A couple of different ways to add a new event. If I simply click in the timeline, I can start adding a new event. But let's say I want to add a new event with the current active thought. Let's say Reach Out Ad Campaign. I already have one for that. Let's say the Future of eSolutions is a presentation that I'm going to be giving in-house to my peers just to start getting some feedback. And that happens today at 3 o'clock. So with this particular thought open, I'm going to click on the plus tab to add a new attachment to this thought. So this plus tab, you may remember this from version 9. You could always right-click and select Add Attachment. You can do that here as well. I like to click on the plus tab. It's easy to get to. We can use this for linking to a file, for adding a new file attachment. In this case, I simply want to create an event for the current active thought. So when I select it from there, it's automatically attaching to the active thought. If I select it in the timeline, it creates a new event, but not necessarily being associated or connected to the active thought. I can go back and change the settings to detach or attach to the active thought or to another thought if needed. So the Future of eSolutions, we're going to call this my in-house presentation. I can add description, start receiving notes, be sure to use presentation B rather than presentation A, etc. I can even specify a location. And this is what I really like. I can also specify and color code items as well. So you may have noticed I kind of color code a lot of my events that I create with just simply a code that works for me. And there it is in my, down below in my events. Now, remember I mentioned that this starts at 3 o'clock, and I just now set it up for the wrong time. So I'm actually going to click on the event, and notice I can drag it to a different time. So there, I'll just drag it over to the right a little bit. And there, when I click on the event, it pops open, and now it's appearing at 3 o'clock. So you can very easily adjust events in your brain, move them around to start at different times along your timeline. So some really, really great features there for adding new events. I can also go back and edit this and actually ask the brain to send me my reminder. So this is really, really one of my favorite features of the calendar that was in version 8. Got it here in version 9. The brain is going to remind me when events are coming up. I can have it remind me, we'll say the day before the actual event. And that way, as I'm using the brain, there it is. I've got my pop-up reminder. I'll just simply snooze from here. 10 more minutes, it's going to remind me again. Now, this question came up in the question panel. So real quick, I'll share with you. This is not a feature that exists for you quite yet. Those of you that are already using version 9, this is something that we're in-house testing. But notice I've got a button here that's a little bit different than the buttons you're seeing. My Google Calendar settings. I'm going to stop at that right there and just share with you that this is in development right now. Soon we'll be able to synchronize, and it's a two-way sync with the Brain 9. So anything that I create here in the Brain on my desktop is going to be synced to my Google Calendar. Anything that I sync to my Google Calendar will show up for me in my Brain. So we're really, really excited about bringing this back. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to mention too, in terms of timeline, while you're on it, I have a bunch of questions just popping in from Chris and Alan and Pedro. So maybe we'll just answer them in the context of your demo. So
sure.
Whenever you're done talking about timeline.
Sure. No, go ahead. What are the because I was about to move on from the timeline. So while we're here, let's go ahead.
Sure. And the thing about timeline, I love your questions. It's kind of a new funky feature, and it will evolve. So I actually don't know some of these questions, like Chris's question, if we have it or don't. So I'm going to throw them at Matt, because this is where it's all new features and things will evolve. Chris is asking, why is timeline not 24 hours? And so my response is, interesting point. I thought you could kind of zoom in to see 24 hours and create an event like for a full day. Can you address that?
Absolutely. Notice there's some buttons over here on the right. So the default for the event, for the timeline, when you open it up, it's going to show you a couple of days interval. But you're not stuck to that view. I can use my mouse wheels I showed you earlier. So I'm zooming way in or way out. And if you quickly want to get to 24 hours, notice there's some buttons over here on the right. Day view, 24 hours, week view, month view, and year view. So if I want to see the current 24 hours, first I can go to scroll to now. So it took me right to now, and that slowly fades away. And now I go to the 24-hour view. So I've got from, as you can see, from 8 a.m. Until it's actually ending at 8 a.m. tomorrow on Friday. So that's what's currently in the range or within my view. So we do have those options. If you don't like scrolling, you can scroll every 24 hours back here instead of using the mouse wheel or just clicking and dragging. Many different ways to actually interact with the timeline view.
And actually, ironically, that was another question from Sandra, but then Chris went on to say that he meant 1,500 hours, not 3 p.m., so actually within 24-hour time. And I don't think we have that capability, because I think most people, unless you're in military, we do have a lot of military clients, so maybe that is a future option. We can bring that up, but I don't think we have the 24-hour time.
That's right. That's a documented feature request, because that has come in before, rather than AM, PM, people want to go with, 400 or 500 and then on into 1,300, 1,400. So that is a documented feature request and something that our developers are certainly looking into.
Okay, and then Pedro's asking, is it possible to have the same event appearing in different thoughts at the same time, like an alias?
The individual events can only be associated with one individual thought. So if I click to open, notice that I've only have one thought for this particular event. However, let's say I need to know from another location that an event is associated with Fred Baxter. This is how I utilize this. And you can play around with many of the different features within the brain. But if I need to, let's not use a person, let's use an actual event. So the future of eSolutions, let's say I want this presentation to be associated with another thought. I'm actually going to right click and copy the future of eSolutions. And let's say I do go over to a person. And for Steve, I'm just going to give him some new notes. I'll say Steve will also be presenting on, and I'm going to paste. So all I did was Control V there just to paste really quickly. So the future of eSolutions, and then I can click the future of eSolutions, go right to that thought, and I can see once again with the icon that there's event associated with the future of eSolutions. So a couple of different ways that you can do that. Obviously, I could create another event right on top of the future of eSolutions. I choose to just other mildly related or closely related subjects, people, topics. I'll just simply in the notes, and you can see here I've done it again on another note, I can just click to go directly to another thought. I don't necessarily need to visualize a link in the brain, but I need to know in the notes that there's something closely related. And so that's how I'll connect those two thoughts to one another.
And Matt, I'm not sure if I should, I probably have a few more things you want to show, so I want to be sensitive to that, but I also have a ton of questions, so I'm not sure if we should move into Q&A or if you want to get to some of your, and I know actually the next part of your demo, and I'll just tell people who are asking me questions about this, a lot of questions on future of WebBrain, our new web client, and iOS.
Yes.
Views. Like Michael's on iPad Pro version 9 mostly all the time, and he's very interested. And I did mention in Q&A, you know, we've got some very cool native rewrites. So that's the bulk of our questions, but we have more. So maybe we can,
absolutely,
you know, but also demo whatever you, I don't know how much more we have. There's so many features, guys. We could do this for 3 hours and not cover everything.
It's true. I really had to limit my feature list. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just a couple of things really quickly to share with you, because they did come up on the questions, and I really wanted to get to these features that I particularly like. Many of you often use the comet trick, and the comet trick is actually being used. I just saw it on this area. So I've got my client Time Warner, and down below is one of my ad campaigns, Reach Out for Time Warner. I can go over to See the World and just add in the comet trick. So when I'm on Time Warner, the parent name is actually appended. It's not being shown right now, but the full thought name is See the World, Time Warner, Reach Out, Time Warner. This is, again, one of the subtle, smaller upgrades to version 9. But if you utilize this feature, it's really going to come in handy. Let's say, for example, and they did just recently change their name in some areas of the market to Spectrum. So I'm actually going to change Time Warner to Spectrum. And remember, I've got those two thoughts down below that are also utilizing the comet trick. So they're partially named Time Warner. Well, the brain recognizes that. It actually found 4. There's other thoughts that I didn't even know were using Time Warner. So I would have missed those because my own organic brain forgot that I named some thoughts with that. So the brain finds Time Warner is being referenced on 4 other thoughts utilizing the comet trick, context-sensitive naming. And yes, I'll have the brain rename those for me. Great time saver. So now my Reach Out ad campaign is for Spectrum. My See the World ad campaign is for the client Spectrum. So a very subtle, small little feature that really, really comes in handy. And this is the final component before we get into syncing the brain and talking about mobile devices. The question popped up, and I wasn't going to demo this today, but it actually came up a couple other times. Are there new ways to organize groups of thoughts? And there is, we call it the hidden ordering system. So let's say my welcome letter with my this active project, when we're working on this active project, my welcome letter is actually the very first thing that needs to happen. I need to welcome all the team players onto this project that we're working on and create an outline and move forward. So this is really step one. And because my thoughts are being displayed alphabetically, it appears at the end of the list. That's not great. So I actually want to, I'll stay on the spectrum, see the world, and I'm going to alt-click on this thought and simply rename it .01. Give it a little space. And notice that it now appears at the very front of the list. So it's a hidden ordering system. I don't really want to see when I'm looking at a group of thoughts, 1, 2, 3, 4, step 1, step 2, etc. I can do that and leave that hidden. So welcome letter step 1, we'll say step 2 is delivering the project details. Once again, I'll go into this thought, and this one I'll name .02. It could be .002 or just .2, depending on how many digits you need to go. I might go over 10, so I'm utilizing .02. And there, step 2 is now project details. So a hidden ordering system to organize all of your groupings of thoughts if you want them to appear in a particular order. And so now, once again, please know that there are many, many other new features. There's my reminder going off. I'll snooze this once again. Many other fantastic new features in the Brain 9. These were some of the features in respect to today's topic that we wanted to highlight. But the final component that I want to share with you before we open it up to other questions is that obviously everything that I've done here on my Brain today and everything that Shelly did, she was working on her local machine. So this is my local Brain that I have. It's time to take this Brain with me on the road, wherever I happen to go. So I'm going to sync this Brain to the Brain cloud. Version 9 of the Brain syncs up to app.thebrain.com. If you're familiar with version 8 and you synced your Brain and took your Brain on your mobile devices, you were syncing to webbrain.com. If you go to our website, let me just open that up here. And I'll bring that on the right screen. So if you go to our website, at the very top of our website, notice you can log in. You're logging into app.thebrain.com. So I'm going to log in with my credentials. There is a link if you're still using version 8. Obviously, there's a link to log in to version 8. That's webbrain.com. I'm logging into app.thebrain.com, and this is currently still under development, under active development. So we've got a little reminder up there at the top of the screen. But here's my eSolutions Brain. So everything I've done today is actually going to be accessible online. I'm in a web browser right now, and there eSolutions just loaded up, and I can now start clicking through my individual clients and clients by service level, gold service level client, and there's spectrum. So even the changes that I just recently made and synced, they're already showing up here in my Brain for online access. And there you can see all of my notes. And when it's viewed online, I've got a link out to that YouTube video. So all my content is there and accessible. And also rebuilt from the ground up are our iOS and Android apps as well. So I'm going to now log into, and let me bring my camera up onto the screen. So here is my iPhone, and I'm just going to go into Brain and launch my Brain. So all of my Brains that I've created also available from my iOS device. So there you can see our Brains that I already have downloaded. That's got a little picture. If you can see that picture, those are local Brains. So anytime I see the little picture of a desktop that's local, if I see a cloud, that means it's only available on the cloud. I haven't downloaded it to my device yet. There's another icon, little radio buttons. That means it's syncing. So it's syncing between your iOS device and the cloud, or the desktop application and the cloud. And when you download a Brain, you're actually downloading it onto your iOS device. So I can navigate through my Brain on my phone, even when I'm not connected to Wi-Fi.
Right, so
or
that it's
not
now
connected to.
native. So that's what and it's a
That's
new
right.
rewrite, and you don't actually have to have. So, for instance, if you're in another country and you have data roaming, your brain, it's not going to take up any data roaming or anything like that, because you can have a local version that doesn't require internet on your phone. So that's nice. And just another word on the web client. Obviously, this is sort of the new and revamped, you know, webbrain.com. It's now a new URL. So when you log in, you're syncing to a new site. It's a lot faster and more robust in terms of sync. So you may or may not notice that, but you just have to kind of take our word for that. And you'll see a lot of additional development happening within the next week or two on the web client. But it does feature a faster sync. And then, of course, on the iOS end of things, the native ability to access your brain without connecting back to the server, a remote app is sort of the big new feature for both the Android and iOS app.
And I'm trying to show here, there's actually a sync button. So any changes I make when I'm on my mobile device, I can click on sync and begin syncing those changes that I've made here on my mobile device back up to the cloud, so I can access. And there it just completed. The completed even went away so quickly. So very fast to sync, and the fact that you can have that actual brain local on your mobile device. And I know this has come up a few times when I've shared this and talking with people on the forums and in support. Does it take up a lot of room on your phone, the brain that you create? It actually only downloads file attachments on a need to access basis. So even if you have a brain with huge file attachments, presentations, documents, things like that, only if you decide, well, I do need to open this file from my mobile device, then it's actually going to download that file. But as far as just navigating through the brain, it doesn't take up a lot of space or a lot of room. So it's smart in the way that it syncs to your mobile devices as well.
All right, great. And we're going to move into Q&A since we're on the hour. We've got a lot of questions to cover. And real quick, for those of you that have to run off, I have a couple things I want to share with you before you do, but we're going to continue into overtime for at least another 15 minutes. If you can stay, you can stay. First of all, there is a recording. We've thrown a lot of features at you. Hopefully, some of them made sense. And if they haven't, you join Matt tomorrow for his 101 class. It's a lot smaller. So for a lot of you are asking about real specific things. In that class, we literally get to demo everything because it's just a smaller class size. So you can even pop in towards the end if you don't want to hear about how to create a brain from scratch. And if you are a new user and you do want to hear about that, that is the class. And Matt is the guy, and that happens tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And now on to ordering the Brain. Ralph had a question. I use the Brain Pro. My license is about to expire soon. What does the conversion cost? So the thing that's really cool about existing users, if you have a license, we have very liberal, very progressive upgrade policy in that if you have purchased a license November 1, 2015. So if your license is over 2 years old, you've got a free upgrade because we have been working on the technology for a while. We want to reward those users. So that's the good news there. And we also have, for the new users, just to let you know, we do have a free version of the software. So we have the free version, which absolutely costs nothing. You don't get all the features. You can go on our site and learn. You won't be able to attach files, but you can attach web links. You can do relationship management, make a beautiful bookmark guide. Jerry Mikulski, which has a brain of over 300,000 thoughts, essentially is almost just using our free version. So that's kind of cool. And then, of course, we've got the license only for $219 and the license and cloud services combo, which I recommend for syncing for $299, especially, if you lose your laptop or want to back up or any of these crazy reasons, you have that backup of the cloud. And then, of course, Team Brain is also $299, but that is an annual fee. So we can talk to you about that.
I've got just a quick comment. A couple of people have asked about the iOS and about Android. So really quickly, if you're interested in using version 9, because many of you, if you just went to the App Store and you downloaded TheBrain from the App Store or from Google Play, you're downloading the version that's compatible with 8. So visit our website, www.thebrain.com, and under the products page, you'll see that there is a, let me go, oops, sorry about that. Let me go back to TheBrain. You see there is, under the products area, a link for TheBrain for iOS and TheBrain for Android. So you're using version 9, you're syncing to app.thebrain.com. You now want to see your brains on your mobile devices. There's a few extra steps before the version that's compatible with version 9 is actually available live on the App Store. So join the beta program. Click here, follow the on-screen instructions. If there's any other questions you have, send us a note into support@thebrain.com. We're happy to help you out. But you need to join the beta program to get version 9 appearing on your iOS or your Android devices. So yes, we do have Android. A couple of people wrote in saying, hey, I downloaded Android, my brains aren't showing up. You probably downloaded the version that's only looking for version 8 brains that have been synced with your account information. So once again, join the beta program. Some further instructions will get you the right release number, the update on your mobile device, and you'll have access to your version 9 brain.
All right, great. So now I'm back in questions. I've read them, so I'm going to plow through. We're going to start plowing through all your wonderful questions. Thanks for the great questions and the feedback. It's all really relevant to us, and we do appreciate it. And let's start with Bala. Will migration be automatic, or do we need to do anything? And I realize we didn't cover, like, if I'm an 8 user, how do I start? So I mentioned that she does need to import some of her brain. So maybe you can cover that process.
Absolutely. And there's 2 different ways to import a brain from 8. So yes, you can take a version 8 brain or a brain zip and import it into version 9. They're not backwards compatible. So if you've started out with version 9 and now you want to see what that brain looks like in 8, you'll need to recreate that brain in version 8. So not backwards compatible. But you can click on File. Here I've got a brain open, so I click on File and I select to import. And I can either create a new brain from version 8, or I can add a version 8 brain into a brain that I have open. So just know that those 2 options are available. By default, you'll be creating a new brain. And now I can simply browse my C drive for an existing .brain file or brain zip. So I click on Select File, and if I go onto my C drive and into my brains, here are all my different brains. So I've got all of these brains I've actually already imported. Maybe my ideas. I'll say Open. And there, it's going through the process. So it's converting it. Yes, it's ready to go. Now I click on Import, and I will have a new brain open. I'll hit Cancel and look at my brain list. And if I scroll down, My Ideas, or I can even filter, there it is, My Ideas is now a brain that I can open right here in version 9. So import into an existing brain in 9 you've created, or into its own new standalone database in version 9. So very, very easy to import brain zips, brain files, and even with the brain 9, you can still archive. So we now call them BRZ files. It's a brain archive. Same thing as what a brain zip was in version 8. So you can take brains you've created, zip them into a single file for your own personal archiving if you're choosing not to sync to the cloud.
All right, great. And Salvador has a question. Are there any other ways to link thoughts automatically rather than manually one by one? So there are a lot of, first of all, we have a mass select. So you could literally mass select a bunch of thoughts and link them to another thought. And we'll have Matt show you mass selecting options. But I also want to point out, well beyond the scope of our time today, we have importing options. If you're talking about automatic thought creation, like you can import a spreadsheet and that'll automatically create a brain, a word outline, a mind map, XML. So Matt, if you want to show our importing options, and then just talk about a mass selecting just a group of thoughts to link them to another thought. And hopefully that'll cover the bulk of what Salvador is asking there.
Absolutely. And also, Salvador, you may recall earlier in the demo, I linked 2 thoughts by just simply copying and pasting into the notes. So see the world spectrum, I can right click and select copy, and then navigate to another thought. Let's say Joe Smith, travel policy. I'm just looking for travel. Let's say we'll be traveling to see customers with our new, and now I'm just pasting, See the World Spectrum ad campaign. So that's one way. I've linked two thoughts without actually clicking and dragging a link between them. I can just click that little shortcut in the notes and go to that other thought. That's one way to do it. Now, the next feature that Shelly mentioned, I'm typically using that when I'm copying an area out of a brain, out of one brain and into another. But here again, some great new advancements in version 9. Previously, you could control click. So let's say I want to control click on some individual thoughts. This is a great outline. It's a great project, but we've decided we're not going to use this data for See the World ad campaign. Guess what? I've got another ad campaign for another client. I want to move it over there. So rather than creating all this data thought by thought over there, I'm going to move it over very quickly using this mass select. So in the past, once again, control click. If you're on a Mac, this is a command click. So I can control click on thoughts. I can control click on a gate, and notice it selects all. I click on control, and I select all the thoughts connected to that gate. But here's the new feature. I really, really like this, and I use it quite a lot. I'm going to click on control, and now I'm just going to select by dragging. So these thoughts that I've dragged around, I've added into my selection box. And I'll go through this really quickly, but I think you'll get the idea. Once you control click on a grouping of thoughts over in the selection box, there's a lot that you can do here. You can assign a new thought type to all of these thoughts. You can mass delete thoughts this way. In my scenario, in this scenario, we're linking to another area. So I want to unlink from spectrum. So I select to unlink selection. There, they're no longer linked to that active thought. I don't want to close that box. I want to navigate over to my other client, TrueNet. And TrueNet has a new ad campaign called Be True to You. So that's the name of my new active project, an ad campaign for this client. I'm salvaging all of that data that didn't work out for my other client. And now I simply right click in the selection box and select link as children of my current active thought, Be True to You. So that's another option for you to, how you can link a thought from one area to another. Move it over to the selection box, and in this case, I unlinked it first. You don't have to if you want to link to both, but you can mass select a large group into your selection box and link it in other areas of the brain.
All right, great. And then Paul is asking, can you please show us search as well? Very curious to see new enhancements. I covered that a little bit, but yeah, there's a lot of nice bells and whistles and search and reports. Yeah. So I guess the quick version, I'll let you dive into that a bit.
So the search in version 9 has been streamlined once again. Everything faster, better, stronger, more reliable, and the search is no exception. We're now utilizing on a Windows machine, Windows desktop search. On the Mac, we're utilizing the Spotlight capabilities. So the search simply utilizes, here I am on Windows, so I'm utilizing Windows desktop search. And if I say, starting to type in strategy, but notice my search results are coming up in a couple of different groups. So I've got thoughts, links, events, and down below are all of my notes and attachments. So wherever the word strategy appears in that content, if it's in the brain, an internal attachment, a note, or an event, details on an event that you've created, it is all, basically it's indexed by your operating system, not by the brain itself. So as soon as it goes into the brain, it's going to show up in your search results. And it makes the brain application itself faster and lighter by not carrying along the search index wherever the brain goes. We utilize that through the operating system, and it makes the search very quick. Here's a few features that I really like. let's say I don't know the name of the document I'm looking for. It had something to do with strategy. Every time I click back in the search results, it takes me to the last search, so I can find some content that way. Maybe it's the actual thought called strategy. No, that's not it. There's another feature. I can hold down the shift key. So I click on shift and then select something. Is it on my United Way? No. Ah, there it is, Power of the Future. So one of my presentations. By holding down the shift, the search box actually never closes. So I can scroll through and really find exactly what it is that I'm looking for if I'm really browsing around through the search results. And there you can see content is PowerPoints and things are loading up in the content window behind me. So another great advancement. And also, if you, this particular feature, people really seem to like it. I haven't used it too much yet, but I do think it's neat. If I say strategy, through science. So notice nothing is showing up in my search results. This is a new thought that I need to create. I was just searching in my brain. No, it's not there. I don't want this created under United Way. I'm going to click the little lightning bolt that you see there, and that's the instant create. It creates the thought for you, but it doesn't connect it to anything. So I'm just brainstorming right now. I need some content on this, and I can add my cool notes over on the right. And then when it comes time, all right, now I created all this great content on the fly, just sort of free-flowing thought. Where am I actually going to connect the strategy through science? Well, that's actually going to be part of my, I don't have Time Warner, so maybe Nokia. They might be sort of receptive of this type of new proposal that I'm setting up for an ad campaign, whatever the case may be. So I can come back and link it up later. Anyhow, that's with the little lightning bolt. You can also just hit the enter key if nothing is there. Actually, I hit tab, and that tabs over to the lightning bolt, and it creates those thoughts for me. So great new feature for brainstormers out there that really just want to get content into their brain quickly.
All right, great. And Meadow is asking, is there any way to see full notes view? There's actually a couple questions.
There certainly is. Hi, Meta. Thanks for joining us today. Meta is really, really active on our forums. So has great feedback on the brain, has been there with us through the development of the Brain 9. We always appreciate hearing from Meta. So Meta, yes, absolutely. Full notes view or full Plex view, it's all there. And this question came up a couple of times too. Notice the splitter that separates the Plex from the content. I set it up side by side, left and right. Shelley likes it over under, more classic layout of the brain. I can switch to that view. I could switch to that view with the icons here on, we call it the splitter bar between the Plex and the content. So I can go side to side. I can even flip-flop. I want my brain over on the right. And here, let's minimize the content down below. So I can specify exactly how I want the brain to look and feel. If I do want to go full notes, there's some buttons there to minimize and maximize. So I click on that again, the button again, or minimize the notes and go full screen with the Plex. Also, you can set it up so that a double click maximizes, or a double click over here will maximize. That's done up in your options and then preferences. Double click to maximize the notes or maximize the Plex as well. So those features are all there.
Excellent. And then a few more questions coming from that user. Drag and drop attachments between notes. I assume she means in the content area. So if I have an attachment in one content area, is there a way to drag it to another thought?
Absolutely. So here's an attachment. It's just a web link, but let's say we don't want this right on the spectrum thought. I can click and drag down into the brain, and this is proper behavior. The brain saying, hey, you already have this URL attached, because I'm not deleting it. I didn't do anything to say delete. I'm just dragging and dropping, so I've got a new child thought. So I want to say add, and you can do this the same with Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, whatever the attachment may be. You can drag and drop from the tab there in the content window. And there's different ways to view your content window. There's great customizations in the Brain 9 to really fit your environment. I'm going to right click and notice I'm going to say attachments as a list. So then I've got an ongoing list. This is really good if you've got a lot of multiple attachments on a single thought, 10, 20 attachments. I don't think I have any thoughts like that. I could create that. I'll just create another. Here's a Word document called spectrum.doc. So notice it's adding to my list view, and I can right click and go back to my attachments as a tab. So a lot of different ways to set up your preferences for your content. But once again, even with the Spectrum Word document now, I can drag and drop that down into the Brain as well. So a few different options for you for how you want to move content around through your Brain.
All right, great. And another question's coming in about, is there a way to set the default to, instead of copy a file into the Brain, to move that file?
Absolutely. So if you want to change the default, I'm going to go right back here into preferences. So my drag and drop, and the drag and drop by default is to copy. On the UI tab is where you can specify how you want the Brain to behave. Now there's keystrokes for these as well, customizable keystrokes. So you can actually specify, if I have copy the file into the Brain, that's my setup. I can change it here, or from time to time, maybe I just want to hear I'm grabbing a letterhead. I'm going to hold down the Alt key. I'm on a PC, Windows machine, so this is actually going to create a shortcut. So that was not moved into the Brain. I held down the Alt key, and so here's where the original document actually resides. I can then right-click to say, move file into Brain, or copy. I'll move it in. You'll see it disappear from my desktop. Now I've moved that file internally into my Brain. So certainly many options for you to change those preferences.
All right, great. And then a question from Patrick about importing Brains. So if I've been using the version 9 beta, and I've imported an old Brain 8, but I've continued to use that old Brain 8 file in the Brain 8, should I delete my old beta Brain 9 and then re-import my current Brain 8? Or is there some way to do this? And yes, so just to answer your question, I know what you're saying, 'cause it's like, oh, I still so used to the Brain 8, I haven't moved everything to the Brain 9. You can import Brains in, but once they're in, it's like a separate Brain. So that's where you kind of need to make a decision. So if you have been kind of going back and using more of that old Brain in the Brain 8, I would say yes, Patrick, delete that Brain that you have imported earlier in the beta process in the Brain 9 and re-import that completely updated Brain 8 in the Brain 9. You sort of have to make a commitment. Okay, I'm just using the Brain 9 for this Brain. And Matt, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but I hear you, because I actually did sort of the same thing when I first started the beta, obviously a long time ago, and I put some Brains in there, but then I went back to 8 because, it was our official release. But now, of course, the Brain being our official download, I've completely committed to the Brain 9, so I actually did exactly what I think you're going to do. And Matt, I don't know if you have anything more to add to that kind of scenario.
No, I think you got it exactly right. Once you go back and make your changes in version 8, now you can run a report in version 8 to find all of the most recent changes, and then once again meticulously, copy those individual thoughts. You can copy those into another version 8 Brain and then import that Brain into version 9. Really depends on how many changes that you've made. If you haven't done anything with version 9, you're just kicking the tires a little bit. Your changes continue to happen in version 8. I think the best thing for you to do is to get rid of the version 9 where you're just testing and do a new import into 8. That way you're sure to have all the latest, greatest data and content in the Brain that you've created.
All right, great. And we have a question from Paul. If you could just review how to get the beta program from the iOS options. He wants to make sure he is using the correct iOS version.
Sure, absolutely. A couple of things that you can check on either version, whether you're on 8 or 9 on iOS. And let me get my, there's my camera. So here I am. I'm in version 9. I'm going to go back to my Brain list. Here's one way. If you open a Brain If you see the sync icon, you know you've got version 9 and you're syncing with version 9. If you don't see that sync icon, you can also, I'm going to go to my brain list where I have the gear, and the gear is telling me which version of the application I'm running. Now, I can get to my version 8 brains on this particular brain, on this installation. So if I log out, and you can do this too, you can log out, and when you're logging in, you can see at the top if you're logging into the Brain 9 or the Brain 8. If you're logging into 8 and you want it to be 9, click on the eye icon. This is hard to do sort of backwards and behind, but there we go.
Yes, it's like
I've logged
looking
out,
in a
and
mirror.
now I can select, yeah, to go into version 8. So even if you get the latest, greatest version by joining our beta testing group, and you install the correct version of the iOS device or the Android device, you can still get to your version 8 brain. So make sure you're logged into version 9. So just log out, click on the I for information. There we go. And log into version 9. All right.
And I think on that note, we're well gone into overtime. Thanks to everyone. This is the wonderful new brains that I created in the Brain 9 on my iPhone for joining us. If we didn't get to your question, I do want to reiterate, we have free support, technical support, live humans chat from our website. You can call us, you can email us, very accessible, and it's free regardless if you have a paid version or a trial version. So feel free, like if you're not sure about what version of the app to get, we'll be happy to walk you through. And again, we have those Brain 101 classes every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And I think with that, we're going to end today's session. I do want to let you know that there's a lot of questions on when the Brain's going to be out. Yeah, it will be out within the next couple months, possibly sooner. That's all I can say. We're very close. We do have a little bit more work to do on the web client and a bit on the mobile clients, but it's looking very good. And I will tell you this, as somebody who has a very large brain used over a couple of decades, the database backend is actually more secure, more solid, more scalable than 8. So if you do have any doubts, you know, like Patrick and I was the same way, oh, should I move everything from the Brain 8 to Brain 9? I want to remove those doubts because it's a very it's state of the art. So go ahead and make those conversions. And again, for most of you users who purchased in the last couple of years, it's a free upgrade. So it's a no-brainer, so to speak. And again, we do have that 9% sale. So take advantage of that if you are a new user. And I think with that, we're going to close our session today. And Matt, any final words of wisdom on the Brain 9, or do you want to close with some of your favorite features and what you love about the Brain 9? And we'll end on maybe that note.
Sure. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. It's a lot of fun to introduce and share these features, some of them for the first time in one of our webinars. And I just want to reiterate that the Brain 101s are all in version 9 now. So if you're just coming on board with version 9, if you're a version 8 user or new to the Brain, then the Brain 101 is just a great stop. Check in, sign up for one of the free classes every Friday. And it's all in version 9, and we're happy to answer any questions that maybe we didn't get to today in a larger class size. Smaller classes, all Brain 9 every Friday.
And then that being said, if you are a version 8 user, because there are a couple people that said they can't use the Brain 9 until it goes, that beta label's taken off. We do support version 8 as well, and we can demo in version 8. Like I have my version 8 open. We won't, you know, and Matt has his available too. So if you do want to come on the Brain 101 and you have an 8 question, we will address that also.
Great.
He has to.
Thanks, everyone.
He's like, no, I don't want to. Anyway, on that note, we're going to end today's webinar and wish you well in your software in whatever version it is, and we hope it's the Brain 9. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.